Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled Creation, Chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasa, text number 35. Yama adibhihi yogapathaihi yamadhivir yogapathai Kama Lobha Hata Muhu Kama Lobha Hato Muhu Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat Tatha Atma Adha Na Samyati Tathatmadha na Samyati Tathatmadha na Samyati Yamadibhir yogapathai Kamalobho hato muhu Mukunda sevaya yadvad Tathatmadha na samyati Yamadibhir yogapathai Kamalobho hato muhu Mukunda sevaya yadvat Tathatmadha na samyati Yamadibhir yogapathai Kamalobho yat hato muhu Mukunda sevaya yadvad Tathatmadha na samyati
Yamadibhi yogapatahe
Yamadibhir yogapathai Kamalobha hato muhu Mukunda sevaya yadvat Tathatmadha na samyati
Yamadibhir yogapadai
Yamadibhir yogapathai
Kamalobha hato muhu
Kamalobha hato muhu
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Tathatmadha nasamyati
Tathatmadha na samyati
Yamadibhir yogapathaihi
Yamadibhir yogapathai
Kamalobha hato muhu
Kamalobha hato muhu
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Tathatmadha na shamyati
Tathatmadha na samyati Yamadibhir yogapathai
Kamalobha hato muhu
Kamalobha hato muhu
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Tathatmadha na shamyati
Tathatmadha na samyati
Yamadibhir yogapathai
Yamadibhir yogapathai
Kamalobha hato muhu
Kamalobha hato muhu
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Mukunda sevaya yadvat
Tathatmadha na samyati
Tathatmadha na samyati
Yamadibhir yogapatai
Yamadhibhir yogapatai
Kamalobha hato muhu
Kamalobha hato muhu
Mukunda सेवया यद्वत्
मुकुन्द सेवया यद्वत्
तथात्माद न साम्यति
तथात्माधान साम्यति। यमाद्भिर्योगपतैः
यमादिभिर्योगपथैः
कामलोभहतो मुहुः
कामलोभहता मुहुः
मुकुन्द सेवया यद्वत्
मुकुन्दसेवया यद्वत्
तथात्माधान साम्यति
तथात्माधन साम्यति
यमाधिभिर्योगपतैः
यमादिभिर्योगपथैः
कामलोभाहतो मुहुः
कामलोभहता मुहुः
मुकुन्दसेवया यद्वत्
मुकुन्दसेवया यद्वत्
तथात्माधान साम्यति
तथात्माधन साम्यति. Anybody online? One second. Voice is not audible. Can you recite one more time, Prabhu? I'm still not able to hear you. Yes, please try now, bro. Yeah, we can hear you. Yamadibhir-yogapathai कामलोभाहतो मुहुः मुकुन्दसेवया यद्वत् तथात्माधन साम्यति. Synonyms yama adibhihi, by the process of practicing self-restraint. Yoga pathaihi, by the system of yoga. Mystic bodily power to attain the godly stage. Kama, desires for sense satisfaction. Lobha, lust for satisfaction of the senses. Hataha, curbed. Muhuhu, always. Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. Sevaya, by the service of. Yadvad, as it is. Tatha, like that. Atma, the soul. Adha, for all practical purposes. Na, does not. Samyati, be satisfied. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Translation with repetition. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Yoga aims at controlling the senses by practice of the mystic process of bodily exercise in sitting, thinking, feeling, willing, concentrating, meditating, and at last being merged into transcendence. One can control the senses. The senses are considered like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. On the other hand, Narada Muni recommends another method for controlling the senses, in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. By his experience, he says that devotional service to the Lord is more effective and practical than the system of artificially controlling the senses. In the service of the Lord, Mukunda, the senses are transcendentally engaged. Thus, there is no chance of their being engaged in sense satisfaction. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many such instances in history, just like Vishwamitra Muni's falling a victim to the beauty of Menaka. But Thakura Haridas was allured at midnight by the well-dressed Maya, and still she could not induce that great devotee into her trap. The whole idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, neither the yoga system nor dry philosophical speculation can ever become successful. Pure devotional service of the Lord, without being tinged with fruitive work, mystic yoga, or speculative philosophy, is the foremost procedure to attain self-realization. Such pure devotional service is transcendental in nature, and the system of yoga and jnana are subordinate to such a process. When the transcendental devotional service is mixed with subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental but is called mixed devotional service. Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, will gradually develop all these different systems of transcendental realization in the text. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are coming to the conclusion of this chapter. There are another 2 or 3 verses. And Narad Muni is summarizing his teachings in this last few verses, as we saw in the previous verse and this verse also. So of all the long narration of his own life that he gave, these are the conclusions, the final summary. So we saw how Narad Muni being gifted by the Lord with that Veena, Devadattam Imam Veenam, Swara Brahma Vibhushitam, Murchaitva Harikatham, Gaya Manas Charamiham. He is traveling all over the universe with that wonderful Veena, producing this transcendental sound, which is actually composed of Harikatham, Murchaitva Harikatham, Gaya Manas Charamiham. And now he is concluding his last few, in this last few verses, his lesson to Vedavyas, and these are very powerful verses. Let us see the verse today, and then we will do deep dive. Yamadivihir yoga pathai kama lobha hato muhuhu mukunda sevaya yadvad tathatmadha na samyati. So the word used here is yama adibhir. If you know the process of Ashtanga Yoga, which has got 8 limbs, it starts with yama. Yama, niyama, asana, dharana, pratyahara, pranayama, dhyana and samadhi, whatever, those 8 limbs. So yama adibhir. So it is referring to that Ashtanga Yoga. Yama adibhir yoga pathai. This patha, this path of yoga, yama adibhir yoga pathai kama lobha hata muhuhu. Hatha, the word hatha used by Prabhupada is translated as curbed. So this is meant to curb kama and lobha. Kama is desires for sense satisfaction, and lobha specifically is lust for satisfaction of the senses. Yamadibhir yoga patehi kama lobha hatam muhuhu. So yoga, he's actually telling this business of sense gratification one should not engage, and the process to curb is the process of yama adibhir or Ashtanga yoga. However, there is another process, mukunda sevaya yadbat tathatmadha na samyati. You may try to curb your senses. First of all, the conclusion is that it is not important to indulge our senses in sense gratification. This business should be curbed. Process of curbing is by the process of yoga, starting with yama. But he's saying even if you do that, you will not feel satisfaction. Samyati, the word is samyati. The satisfaction will not come. Satisfaction of the senses can only come by mukunda sevaya. Mukunda sevaya yadvat tathatmadha na samyati. Adha, for all practical purposes. You want to satisfy your senses, engage in mukunda sevaya. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses of the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. You can get some relief. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul. For this, satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. And very powerful purport by Prabhupada. Let us see, let us understand. What is the definition of a good life for a conditioned living entity? Well, I should have some nice wine. Not just wine, whatever forms of liquor. You can add your imagination. Nice non-veg in a very beautiful hotel. Beautiful women, or for women, beautiful men. And nice music. To afford all these things, I should have a lot of money. Who doesn't want? The definition of enjoyment since our childhood that we have been told, this is what is good life. You see the Vijay Mallya's any poster or any this thing, Kingfisher calendar earlier. Now I don't know where, right? Still it exists or not, I don't know. But he used to be always, very flamboyant lifestyle where he has a lot of money and all beautiful women around him and very costly, very expensive suits and dresses that he is wearing. It's a very nice lifestyle. Now, interestingly, our scriptures are telling Yama adibhir yoga pathai kama loba hata muhu. You should curb this. You should not indulge. You tell it to somebody, Yama adibhir yoga pathai kama loba hata muhu. You should curb this. Say, are you mad or what? Why should I curb? It is my life. I am working hard. For what reason? I should be able to enjoy my life. That's what is the goal of life. Work hard, party harder. Whatever I am going through this difficult phase in terms of working from 9 to 7 or 9 to 5, whatever it is, 8 hours, 9 hours. The result of that, I should have money to have a nice lifestyle. Very interestingly, have you seen a person who joins the company for the first time, first day of the company? How does he look like? Suppose for example, even a devotee who comes to a new temple, how will he be in the first day? How do you feel? You're very excited to see what's happening, what's going on. You want to understand what are the things, who are the people, what are they doing, what are the services. Similarly, in a new company, new job that you have, new location you have gone, you are very curious. Curiosity to find out what's going on. Very obedient. Your boss says, sit in that place, don't move, sit in that place and do. So you are sitting and doing, at least to show that boss that on that day, on the first day, you are following his instructions properly. Similarly, when the spirit soul who accepts a body and comes to this material world, the first day, when he comes to the first day, he is unaware of. He doesn't know what is this world all about. He's crying. First of all, he has come out of the filthy place from the mother's womb, surrounded by obnoxious liquid, very painful, packed up condition, and that fellow is crying. All others are happy, celebrating. Hey, happy birthday, whatever. And photos are being taken, this thing, that thing. That fellow is bewildered, doesn't understand. Slowly and steadily he is making progress to figure out kya hai, what is this material world, what is this wonderful vichitra iva samsara. That is what Sankaracharya says. He's trying to figure out, okay, people are laughing, they're crying, they're going through different emotions. He's trying to figure out one vocabulary which he picks up, which nobody teaches in the school. Vocabulary is that if I have to be happy, I should indulge in sense gratification. Very deep-rooted this goes. The word vichitra, which Sankaracharya uses for this material world, is a very powerful word. Imagine if this world would have been, you would have been able to experience the dark reality, the stark reality that this is a place of misery and dukkhalayam. First day, when you have picked up your senses, when you have come to your knowledge, you have picked up that, my God, this is temporary, this is miserable, this is dukkhalayam, filled with miseries. How many of us will enjoy life after that? If this goes very strongly into our consciousness, deep within, I'll be fearful. I know this is all going to be over, this is all, but look at all of us. I mean, now that we have taken up to this process of devotion, we have understood a little bit, still it doesn't go. Still it doesn't go inside that, sense gratification is bad. Just given an opportunity, little bit here and there, nobody is around, that will go. Because the state of being, swabhava, is a very strong thing. It is not easy to overcome. We may think we know, sense gratification, not good. Kyun? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, ये ही संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुख यो न ये एवते ते आदि अंतवंत कौनते या न ते शूरमते बुधा. We know that, but when it comes to us, no, because the conditioning is so strong, it makes us forget the reality of life. That is why the word used is good life definition for a conditioned living entity. We are conditioned. Conditioned means we are forced to accept birth, death, old age and disease. Nobody is exempt from this. But while creating this material world, Lord beautifully, to give us this sense of enjoyment, has placed this kind of illusory enjoyment in our senses. Eye sees a beautiful form. Wow, let's enjoy. Ears hear some beautiful sound. Let's enjoy. Tongue tastes something very palatable. Indulge. Or our genitals, it is craving. Or the senses of touch, they are looking for some opportunity to touch. So this is the beauty of this material world. That is why this is vichitra, where we are conditioned to accept. What is the acceptance? The first day, as that employee who's trying to figure out. Similarly, the conditioned living entity, when he has accepted this body and when he is growing up, first thing that he picks up is, epitome of happiness in this material world is indulging in senses, unrestrictedly. Indulge as much as possible. But Bhagavatam is saying, not even Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, this material world is created, which is a reflection of the spiritual world, based on this one pivotal central thing called desire. We saw that in the last class also. Etadhiyatura chittana matra sparshe chaya muhu bhavasindhu plavo drashto haricharyanu varnanam matra sparshe chaya ichha. That ichha is a very powerful thing. Had there been no desire, there is no question of material world. There is no question of going through the suffering. There is no question of conditioning. There is no question of anything. But matra is there and sparsha is there. Indriya senses are there and the sense objects are there. And there is a desire. The senses want to come in contact with the sense objects. Matra sparshe chaya muhu. Continuously, constantly. Bhava sindhu. And then we are fallen into this. Etadhyatura chittana. Even if you see the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, Lord Buddha's conclusion that this world is a miserable place. It's a place of misery. And there is a reason for this misery. Third thing he says, first is this place is miserable. Second, there is a cause for this misery. Third, the cause of misery is desire. When desires are over, then there is no cause, there is no misery. So they have identified they have pinpointed it. They have gone to the root and have told that this desire that we have to enjoy is the root cause of our misery. But we have learned the vocabulary. We want to be we want to be happy. We want to enjoy this world by indulging in senses. So Bhagavatam says, when you indulge in your senses more and more, it is like adding ghee to the fire, adding butter to the fire. It may appear like it is subsiding, but it comes back with double intensity. It may look like it is doused, but when it comes back, oh my God. That is why yama adibhir yoga pataihi kama lobha hatamuhu. One should constantly try to curb these desires, these urges. Bhagavatam's this verse, if you don't remember, if you remember just adding ghee to the fire, najatu kamaha kamanam upabhogena samyati. The word used here is the same word, samyati. Upabhogena samyati. When we desire to enjoy, when we work hard to fulfill that desire, let's say there is a desire to indulge in sense gratification and we do that. We think that by doing that it will be satisfied. Foolish people we are. Najatu kamaha kamanam upabhogena samyati. It can never be satisfied. When the kama has arisen in our heart and we think by upabhogena we will satisfying it. No. Havisha Krishna vartameva bhuya eva bhivardhate. This is increased. Havisa. Havisa is like you add ghee. Krishna vartameva. It may look like it has satisfied for the time being. Bhuya eva bhivardhate. Again it increases. As supplying butter to a fire does not diminish the fire, but instead increases it more and more, the endeavor to stop lusty desires by continual enjoyment can never be successful. In fact, one must voluntarily cease from material desires. So what is this process of restraint which this verse is talking about? And forget about even Hindu religion or Sanatana Dharma or Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Every single religion talks about a sense of regulation. Regulation is required. Let's take some common example. Imagine Badri has made nice gulab jamun, Lencha or Hari, whoever. And Vishnu has come for the first time to IHM Boston. So he likes gulab jamun, Lencha, apparently. And one he has put in his mouth. He said, wow, it's just amazing. It just melts in my mouth, bro. It's properly soaked in sugar syrup, yummy. Then he takes one more. 2 is gone. He's wondering that there is a vessel of lenchas and gulab jamuns in front of me. If there is no one else around, let's say they have gone to now wash their plates, nobody is looking at me. Tak, 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 tak. I just put, just for our understanding, 20 gulab jamuns I have taken. What will happen to you tomorrow? Diarrhea, right? There is a problem. Overindulgence in sense gratification, even materially, can cause distress. Forget about spiritual. Spiritual life cannot even exist if we are looking for sense gratification. It doesn't go well. Actually, the people who are not able to take up to spiritual life or are not able to practice devotional life is because they have still deep-rooted desires to enjoy their senses. Prabhupada talks about this. We will see this. How many of you have driven a Maruti 800? You have driven Maruti 800. You learned here only, no? Where did you, once you were sitting, like, practice in Maruti 800? Okay, very good. You have driven Maruti 800. You've sat in Maruti. Now imagine if you get your Maruti 800 here to US and you drive in those freeways where it is mentioned 65 miles per hour. Maruti 800 is, at the max it goes 60-70 kilometers per hour. 70 is like if you touch, the car starts shaking. You go at 80 or 100, if you have driven in Maruti 800, the experience is very unpleasant. It's the machine it'll burn because it's not meant. Similarly, there is a limitation. There is a limitation. That is why there is a regulation in our life which is required, even if you want to do sense gratification. Yoga adibhir, it is meant, yama adibhir is meant to curve. It is meant to regulate the senses. Sex life is meant for procreation, not recreation. It is not meant for enjoyment. Okay, let's go and do. But then the problem is that as I was mentioning at the beginning, the vocabulary that we have learnt is this only way we can remain happy is if I eat nice ice cream, if I take some nice things, if I see some, whatever, those ugly forms, but the beautiful, so-called beautiful, the skin dip beauty form, or I hear something, and that is giving me pleasure. It is not just this life. Unfortunately, had it been the problem of this life, we could have found ways to overcome. This is a deep-rooted conditioning, very deep. Many, many lifetimes we have lived like that. Actually, animals have got better facilities to enjoy their senses. Their body is more designed, better suited for sense gratification. Prabhupada gives the example of pigeons and other things. They indulge in sense gratification is pasubat. They indulge in sense gratification more unrestrictedly. But human beings, when they are covered with ignorance, the state of Maya, then they think this is the only goal of life. There is a word which is used in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we are seeing now in our discussions in the evening. The word is bhava. And Prabhupada highlights that word many a times. Bhava is not the one that comes adau shraddhata sadhu sangatata bhajana kriya and bhava and prema. This word bhava, at 7.12, it comes ye chaiva sattvika bhava rajasas tamasas chaye matta eveti tan vidhi natva aham teshu temai. And the word bhava is state of being. In our present state of being, where I have been conditioned in different ways, the way I have been brought up, the way I have had my past experience which I am carrying from my past life, of the idea of enjoyment, I am in a state of being where I want to go after this sense gratification. Ye chaiva sattvika bhava rajasas tamasas chaye matta eveti tan vidhi natva aham teshu temai. This word bhava continues even in the next verse. Tribhir gunamair bhaver evhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabhijanati. So in that state of bewilderment, in that state of being, I am still looking for sense gratification. Even if you are wearing the dress of a devotee, this bhava, that is why swabhava, that swabhava is a very difficult thing to overcome. In 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, when he is describing about Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, he is talking about by their swabhava, by their, there is originally a nature. That is how we are born, that is how we are, and that is how we go after sense gratification in a different way. Swabhava. And that's why if you remember the verse of 8th chapter where Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. You accept the same state of being what you remember at the time of death. And this cycle of birth and death is continuing because we have got that state of being where we are stuck. And we are just doing this. It's no matter, even if we are, chanting 16 rounds, following these 4 regulative principles, that doesn't go. Very strong. That's why this is called out. Kama lobha hata muhuhu. Each one of us have got that weaknesses. Where if given all the sense enjoyments are available to us, and all facilities are met so that nobody is around, we will do our own weakness thing. So yamadibhir yoga patehi kama lobha hata mohu. So you say, okay, this material world is conditioned. We are conditioned to enjoy this material world in one way. So what is your alternative? What is the alternative that you are giving that we should look for? Interestingly, the alternative is this is where if you get this, then your conviction to practice this will become stronger. There is an alternative. The alternative is we need to understand that behind this entire material creation which we want to enjoy, there is the Supreme Lord. From Him this creation has come about. From Him we have come about. So when we engage in satisfying His senses, the senses are looking for engagement. The senses it's hankering for indulgence. But when we use the same senses for Krishna's service, when we use the same senses, knowing well that it belongs to Rishikesha, knowing well that this material world is also created by Him, so everything that is available to me, I should use it for Krishna's service. Then the desire to enjoy material world, material things will vanish from our heart. Where is it mentioned? Where it is not mentioned. We have been seeing these verses for so long. One verse which we discussed in the previous chapter, it is mentioned there. Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. This verse we had seen, beautiful verse by Prabhupada, where he explains that does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the same thing? And Prabhupada gives the example, the analogy of somebody who has got diarrhea by taking milk. If the same person takes another transformation of milk in the form of curd, can cure that. Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena subrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. So the chikitsa, or the cure for the disease, it's not that senses are bad or the sense objects are bad. It is just the purification of that desire which is required. Actually, one should have sumptuous darshan of the Lord. The darshan of the Lord can satisfy so many. The form is a very powerful thing. It can, no matter a person who is married, even if he has got another partner in his life, Prabhupada mentions the desire to see another person, even despite marriage, doesn't go. Forget about a person who's not married. And it causes so much of disturbance. The example which is given in Bhagavatam is, imagine there is a beehive and somebody wants to put his hand to take some honey out of it. Moment he tries to do that, all the bees will come and it will just bite him, sting him. Similarly, if a man tries to go after another woman other than his wife, then that woman's relatives will go after this man, and it becomes a very... But all these things a person forgets when this desire comes. That's why it says these are all swabhava raktasya. Remember the verse which we had seen earlier in Bhagavatam, it says jugupsitam dharma krite anusasataha swabhava raktasya mahan vyatikrama. Oh, Vedavyas, what did you do? Alas! This is how Narada Muni addresses Vedavyas. You, in the name of writing the scriptures, have given liberty to people to indulge in sense gratification. Of course, the purpose why Vedavyas did that, he wanted to regulate them. But Narada Muni is telling, Jugupsitam dharma anusahasataha. You have given these regulations, but this is all condemnable. This is despicable. Jugupsitam dharma anusahasataha swabhava raktasya mahan vyatikrama. Rakta. Virakti is detachment and rakta is attachment. We are attached. We are attracted to the senses. We are not pure at all. We have to be very careful with the senses. Especially when we are left to ourselves, when we are on our own, and unless the senses are purified, it is very, very difficult. It can go anywhere. That is why it is called venomous serpents. These are venomous serpents which can... we have discussed this during one of those Karthik meditation. You are sitting and enjoying a nice TV serial, TV program, and somebody comes and whispers in your ears, actually I saw from your window that there is a thick black venomous serpent in your room. It was just going here and there. Hey, don't, what is, let me watch. Will somebody do like that? He'll be scared. Who calls, what TV serial, what am I seeing? Where is that snake? Where is it behind me? Where is it? I'll be afraid. Whereas, when these serpents are always living with us in the form of this senses, we're not even scared. We're not worried about it. They're all bewilderment of the Maya. Tribhir gunamair bhaver. So that is why one has to always engage all his senses, including the mind, because we are never. There's a verse in Bhagavatam which says we all have 6 wives. Always. The 6 wives, whether you are a woman or a man, doesn't matter, you all have 6 wives. We all have 6 wives. 6 wives are our 5 senses and the mind. And with these 6 wives, we are always living. You may be in Vrindavan, you may be in the temple, you may be in a very secure, very nice atmosphere, but since your proximity is so high with these 6 wives, and the way they dictate, you follow them. Maybe sitting here, but mind is contemplating on something else. It's a very risky proposition. The only way it can be purified is Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Interestingly, there is another verse which came. Actually, if you just see this whole series of verses, there is nothing which is not revealed. There is nothing which is not told in this series. How from a hopeless conditioned state one can come to the state of a pure devotee like Narada Muni. There is a verse which comes in the 5th chapter again. Navai jano jatu kathanchana vrajen mukunda sevi anyavad anga samshritam smaran mukundangri upagrahanam punar bihatum ichen na rasa graho janaha. Very interesting verse. What it means is that if somebody has engaged in devotional service for to Lord Mukunda even once, Mukunda sevi anyavad anga samshritam, so then he cannot do anything. He will come back. I have heard this story from one of the devotees in one of the visiting devotees. I don't know who's, the American devotees who come to our temple to give a class. He was talking about one person who was serving in one of the temples in the US, I think in LA or something. And he started engaging in devotional service, took up to this process of devotion very quickly, started chanting 16 rounds, became a pujari and was worshipping the Radha Krishna deities. And then all of a sudden he thought that he's missing out in life. He's losing on that lifestyle that he had, and he left the temple and went back. So he left the temple and went back, and then he joined a company, HCL Technologies, as a director. And then director, or what are you now? What is your designation? General. Okay, general manager. He joined, and he almost got back his previous life. He was happy. All material avenues are there, enjoying. Like that, time passed by, and after 9 or 10 years, so this devotee was once asked by his colleagues in the company where he was working, let's go and visit a temple here. So they have a nice restaurant there, and we will go and have lunch there. So this devotee vehemently opposed the moment he saw it is a ISKCON temple. He didn't want to go. He said, what's wrong? You have to come with us. We are there with you. You don't have to, what is the problem? No, I cannot go. I said, okay, no, don't worry. Don't go to the temple. Come till the temple, but be seated in the car. I said, okay, sounds like a good proposal. I will not go, but at least I'll see, maybe something will happen. So he goes. And those other colleagues of his, they went out. They were going to have darshan. While they were closing the doors and going, they said, Arey, you came all the way here. What is the point sitting here? After all, just few minutes, no. Come and have darshan. After darshan, we will go. Okay, you don't have darshan. Let's go to the restaurant first. Let's eat. So they went and had prasadam in the Govindas. So he ate nicely. He remembered, wow, this prasadam, it's always transcendental, he's thinking. And now what I'm doing in struggling here in this material world. After finishing the prasadam, they said, let's have the darshan of the Lord. We are karmis. We don't come to this temple all the times. They didn't know the word karmi, but we are always busy. Let's go and have the darshan. And they pulled him. They pulled him to the temple, and the temple, when he entered, he saw that arati was going on. There was a pujari who's doing puja nicely. He was worshipping. And he came and he just could not control himself anymore. Just broke down, just melted, started crying, thinking where I have gone, what am I doing, how I have wasted my life. So actually, once one gets the taste of rendering devotional service to the Lord, he can never forget that taste. It is very different. It remains with us. And that taste brings us back. But the only thing is, the attraction or the pull for the other side, from the Maya side, is also very strong. And unless one is careful, one is little complacent or little careless, that is the opportune moment where Maya hits us, attacks us. We think now we have become very strong, very advanced. That is when Maya catches us and pulls us. So even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down, somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. But as I said, the state of being is so difficult to overcome, it is not easy to always be confident of it. There is a verse which I don't have it here. It comes in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. This is for the instruction of the civilized human beings, given by Prahlad Maharaj, where he says, where he gives a clue how we can always remain safe, secure, protected. I said that the alternative is to engage in transcendental devotional service to the Lord and not get attracted, and understand that this is the highest pleasure. The pleasure actually derived here is uncomparable. But sometimes, even after having experienced this, we still get pulled. So the solution which Prahlad Maharaj gives is Rajas Tamascha Satvena Sattvam Chopasamena Cha Etat Sarvam Guru Bhaktya Purusho Hi Anjasa Jayat. Very powerful verse. What is pulling us down? The one that is pulling us down is Rajaguna and Tamaguna. Rajas Tamascha Satvena Sattvam Chopasamena Cha. So somehow or other, if we endeavor, this is 7th canto, 15th chapter, 25th verse. Rajas tamascha satvena. If we somehow constantly endeavor or be conscious of coming to the mode of goodness, Rajas tamascha satvena, sattvam chopa samena cha, then we can upasama, then we can actually, we can mitigate the pull, we can counteract the pull of Maya. Rajas tamascha satvena, sattvam chopa samena cha, etam sarvam guru bhaktya purusho hi anjasa jayat. Only when we come to the platform of Sattvaguna that we can inquire further by engaging in devotional service to Guru. Etam sarvam guru bhaktya. So when we engage in Guru bhakti, then we transcend that goodness and go to the Suddha Sattva, transcendental goodness. Translation is, one must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the modes of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Suddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of nature. If we don't get this, then the swabhava, the state of being, is so strong. Nigraham kim karishye, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Artificially trying to restrain or repression will not help. Imagine a balloon which is filled with air, and you're trying to push it in water, trying to do something. It'll come out even further with a bigger force, the force of buoyancy. It's not easy. Controlling the senses artificially, trying to repress, trying to somehow restrain will not work in long term. It bounces back, because when there is opportunity, when there is no one, like Prabhupada writes here in this purport, that to check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many such instances, as given in the example of Viswamitra and Menaka. But Thakura Haridas was allured at midnight by Maya herself, but still she could not induce that great devotee in her trap. So these are all secrets, but it is all possible if we engage our senses completely. If we engage in Guru Bhakti, then it is possible. I wanted to share one very interesting conversation which happened with one of the reporter with Prabhupada. So there was a newspaper reporter who had come. This is actually in July 14th, 1976 in New York. 1976. Prabhupada is 81 years old or 80 years old, 1896, 80 years old. So he is telling that Hari Sauri is there, Prabhupada is there, and the person, the newspaper reporter is there. His name is Kevin. So Hari Sauri is explaining, the person was very inquisitive, wanted to know what is lifestyle of Prabhupada. What time he gets up, what does he do, when does he sleep. So Hari Sauri was explaining to that Kevin, in the evening Srila Prabhupada goes to bed at 10 o'clock and gets up at 11:30 to begin translating. In a series of some things that he has explained, he spoke about this thing. So Kevin, he is saying, you just sleep for a couple of hours then? Prabhupada looks at him, no, 1.5 hours. So that person, that's it? Prabhupada said, yes. Of course, in daytime I take some rest. So in this way, altogether about 3 to 4 hours. Our philosophy is not that you sit idly and God will send everything. Actually, the conversations or the letters that Prabhupada has written, even in the purports, there are many gems. If we see it with the right mood, when we have done our chanting properly, the consciousness is properly, we can get these gems. Otherwise, we will not. Prabhupada is telling, see, of course, in daytime I take some rest for some time. So this way, altogether about 3 to 4 hours. Our philosophy is not that you sit idly and God will send everything. No, not like that. We know God will send everything. Still we work. Without God's sanction, nothing can come. But we must be qualified to receive the favor of God. That is our philosophy. See, the mercy of the Lord, we can know God only by His mercy. If you really want to understand that there is a happiness beyond this material senses, material purview, it is possible only by the mercy of the Lord. But how do you get the mercy of the Lord? We must be qualified to receive the favor of the God. If we are not qualified, we will not receive. Now question comes, what is the qualification to receive the mercy of the Lord? With that we will close today. The mercy of the Lord, actually in one of the verses, in the last line of the purport, Prabhupada has mentioned this very beautiful, very powerful thing. It is stated, therefore, that only when all contamination is rooted out and the devotee is completely detached from material attractions, can he receive this mercy of the Lord. We are looking for mercy of the Lord, that only when all the contamination is rooted out and the devotee is completely detached from material attractions. Material attractions don't go so easily. That is why that song that we sing, Ar kabe nitai chandera karuna habe, Visaya vasana kabe moro tuchha habe. Ar kabe nitai chandera. It is not a small thing. Visaya vasana to go from the heart. Had it been that easy, one Bhagavatam class we hear, one time we hear Srila Prabhupada, we would have gotten it. It doesn't go. That is why pure devotee like, this is I think Narottam Das Thakur, right? Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't remember. Either of them, anyway, great acharyas, they are telling, Ahar kabe nitai chandera karuna have, Vishaya vasana kabe mora tuchha have. Vishaya chhadiya suddha habe mana, kabe hamo bujhavo se Vrindavana. Vrindavan will, that state of Vrindavan consciousness only will come, Vishaya vasana kabe tuchha habe. Vishaya vasana chhadi suddha habe mana, when the mind has become purified. So if we really want to become the recipient of the mercy of the Lord, then we have to ensure that the contamination is rooted out. The devotee is completely detached from material attractions. Can he receive the mercy of the Lord? These are some of the important points from this verse. Very wonderful verse. And we will see next how Narad Muni concludes this, and what Vedavyas will do after hearing all these instructions from Narad Muni. We will see that in future verses. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, in the previous translation that you displayed, it is mentioned that only if the living entity,
Which one? Let's
3.15 point, the last,
That's the purport.
okay, it's in the purport.
Last line of the
So it is mentioned this mercy of the Lord. So is it referring to a particular type of mercy of the Lord?
Actually, the verse itself also talks about how to know the Lord. And like the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Trivir Gunamair Bhavir Evi Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitam Na Vijanati. They don't understand my state of being. So, and the verse says, this is Kardama Muni, is it Kardama Muni? I think it is, no, it's, I think it's before that. So it is mentioned that by mercy of the Lord only you can know the Lord. There's no other way. And so he is referring to this mercy. This mercy can be achieved, can be obtainable by this thing. So he is referring because it's in connection with the one that is mentioned in the translation. That was your question, right? This mercy. Any other question? Yes, Professor.
Prabhu, so if devotional service is so nice and so satisfying, what is that is preventing one from taking to it? Why is that one is unable to see
So
this?
that is answered in that purport itself, because our intention of engaging in devotional service is not clear. Anyabhilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anamritam. That is not there. We engage in devotional service with some other motives other than just pleasing the Lord. So since we are doing that, so it is getting covered with jnana and karma. I'm looking for some benefits, or I'm looking for this thing, so it is not pure devotional service. So when it is not pure devotional service, the soul is not satisfied, when it's still not getting the full benefits of engaging in devotional service. And there are, maybe I'm looking for something, some adoration, something, all those things are there. We cannot say, they're not there. And when those things are there in the heart, satisfaction to the soul is not coming. So the person goes away also. What is the solution? Solution is somehow or other ensure that you keep engaging yourself in devotional service. The holes, Navadvare Pure Dehi, 9 holes should be completely satisfied with the Supreme Lord. When the Lord is present, what is that? Putana, right? When Putana died, there is mention in Krishna book that the fragrance from her body was spreading all over. Right? Even from far off place, people could see, wow, such wonderful thing. How did it happen? Because Lord just touched. Just by his lips, he touched Putana. And his body got transformed. Similarly, this is a very contaminated body that we have, contaminated state of consciousness. But when we touch Krishna in the form of our eyes, when it sees the beautiful form of the Lord, when it hears the transcendental narrations of Krishna, it satisfies. The state of that impure, contaminated state, filthy, stinking state of consciousness goes away. But the process is you to do it. You cannot, because that pull is very strong. So to overcome that pull, you have to be engaged in devotional service. To remain engaged in devotional service, stay in association of devotees. And give yourself full, don't allow yourself to allow all the senses to get satisfied. in transcendental way. Kirtan, you are absorbed in kirtan. Seeing the form of the Lord, you relish the form of the Lord. All these things when we do consciously, then the tastes go away, lower tastes go away. No, Nectar of Devotion mentions, no, just somebody who comes to the temple who's not aware, but just smells the fragrance of the incense stick. That fragrance of the incense stick can, one can get rid of so many material vasanas. Or we smell, somebody goes in material world with nice perfume. We say, oh, he has got so much of fragrance. It's not his fragrance. His body is a stinking body. This is the fragrance of the dio or whatever it is. But when we hear, when we take the flowers offered to the Lord and smell that, then all these material vasanas will go. But it's a very deep-rooted thing. We should not. It's a foolishness to think that by just doing once, by doing sometimes, it'll go. It's not true. It requires continuously. The senses need higher engagement. Otherwise, you tell. No. You should tell me now. After all these things, if you don't know higher engagement, it's. The verse in Bhagavad Gita where it is mentioned higher engagement, higher taste. Which verse? So it's there, no? Everything you know. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasovarjyam rasopyasya paramdruštva nivartante. So the senses are looking for sense gratification, but don't give it in the material way. Give them the higher sense gratification. Like it is mentioned for grihasthas who have taken up to this process of devotion should do nice deity services. So if the sense of touch, basically two things, form, touch, lust, all these things are most difficult. So when we engage our hands in decorating the form of the Lord, then the desire to touch other opposite sex goes away. Or like that, eyes, decorate the Lord nicely, because we are His part. So when the Lord is nicely decorated, we feel satisfied. It's a reflection, like mirror. You want to see yourself nicely, in the mirror, you have to decorate yourselves. Similarly, if the Lord is decorated well, it satisfies the heart. So every senses, when they are hankering for some engagement, give them the higher engagement, which is referring to the Lord. The ear is looking for hearing something. Don't hear some random material mundane things. Hear Krishna Kirtan. So develop a taste for that. So all this, bhajans and whatever our acharyas have written, when we put some attention, when we give some attention to that, we can see wonderful things are there in that. But only when we are mechanical and when we are doing it superficially, it doesn't touch us. Like for example, and I have told so many times, there are a few songs of Prabhupada, if you hear them, Manasa Deha Geho Jokichu Moro, that song by Prabhupada when he has sung. It's just so intense. Just hearing that. It's a pure devotee singing a song and very, very intense. Or that Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Susitala. That one when Prabhupada has sung, if you hear that in a very different mood. So it has to go inside us. That mood we should, otherwise, it's a very, earlier days, Ajamila he just saw once, right? Sudra and a Sudrani embracing each other. Here you go everywhere, it's filled with that. Why you can't close your eyes, you can't do all these things, it's not possible. But you have to give sufficient engagement to your senses so that they're not hungry for all these things. If engagement is missing, if our ears are not hearing properly, eyes are not seeing properly, if our tongue is not tasting properly, prasadam, then they're looking in other ways. Naturally, they'll go towards that. Does it make sense? can ask, but somebody is hearing, they can hear.
What is meant by the word absolute service? Madhu Pandit Prabhu used that word today. Pure devotionals, engage, become a pure devotee, do absolute service.
Yeah, relatively means you are serving your children, or serving your husband, or serving your family members. That's all relative, because these people, by the will of providence, they have come together in the form of family. I'm just giving, or maybe your society or school or something. That's relative. It's of no value. Next life, you take another body, you go somewhere, somebody else comes and you have to serve. When you're serving the Lord, it's all absolute. Because Lord is absolute, the service is also absolute. It doesn't diminish. It doesn't go waste. It continues, it keeps building up. That's what it is, absolute devotion. Service is meant for Lord only. There's nobody else. Prabhupada mentions in connection with that Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Kirtanam is meant for Vishnu. There is no other Kali Kirtan, no other Kirtan, there is nothing else. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam. So like that, service is meant only for the Supreme Lord. Jiver Swarup hai Krishnera Nityadas. So we, service to mankind is service to God, all those things, if we do, these are all relative. You're serving, okay, good, some altruistic attitude, but it is not absolute. It will finish with the end of this life. You'll get some pious credit, you may elevate yourself to upper planetary system, but you'll not come out of the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, because you are serving the Lord who is absolute. Who's the supreme absolute truth. Yeah, doesn't matter. Yes. Doesn't go on its own, but you should not give up. So that's why the mercy of the Lord is very important. Only by the mercy of the Lord you can know Him. And the mercy of the Lord is possible by rooting out all the detachments and rooting out all the attachments and whatever that line says. Okay, we'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.